their apology, they could shove their apology up their ass. Hemi Panarin definitely looked like he got his mojo back. He got an assist. I was wrong. Big.
Welcome back, everybody, to a special final buzzer with Mr. John Volkowski and one episode of Big Apple Hockey, where we brought in some reinforcements to talk about the Florida Panthers advancing their third straight Stanley Cup Finals. It's just hard to even bring that up right now because it's so unbelievable. I, of course, guys, am your temporary host for tonight, Mark Williams. The usual host is the guy that's right over here, Mr. John Volkowski.
It feels like it's been such a long time since we've seen everybody.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. And joining us from Rangers Central, Evan.
What do you mean? This is Panther Central now. These are my Panthers.
Get out of here.
Love my Panthers.
And of course, Matt, also from Rangers Central.
Yeah, big up the Panthers. I believed in them from the start of the playoffs. I picked them to go back-to-back on my bracket. And right now it's looking good. Obviously, there's going to be some tough competition coming out of the West, but this Florida team is just incredible to watch. And yeah, let's see if they try to, win back-to-back Stanley Cups. And yeah, let's get into the stream.
I think I've kind of said this before, guys. It's sort of like the reverse Tampa Bay is what they're doing, or if you want to refer to it as the Edmonton, who lost to the New York Islanders in 1983. And then ended up going on to win the next two Stanley Cups before. Could have won more, but Steve Smith, a little bit of a mistake that he made. And let's get to the A's. I would usually call it the A block, guys. But of course, by the way, Big Apple hockey hats are available. And use the SeatGeek promo for Big Apple Hockey for $20 off your first order. But we're here because Florida Panthers advancing to the Stanley Cup Finals. They raced a 2-0 deficit today, guys. Scored on 3 consecutive shots to take the lead. Gave it up in the third period, but then Barkov just made them look silly. They're the 4th team to advance to 3 consecutive Stanley Cup Finals since 1980, joining the Tampa Bay Lightning from their own state, the Edmonton Oilers, whom they are going to be playing, assuming Dallas is finished off, and of course the New York Islanders. And the last Stanley Cup rematch, guys, 2009. So, Phil, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on the Panthers going back to the finals?
Not surprised by this at all. I'm actually surprised that they were down 2-0, and then they Carolina just absolutely crapped the bed. Kind of the way that they did against the Rangers last year in Game 6. I felt like I was watching the same game almost. And
I said the same thing when I was watching it.
It's seriously though, you feel like you're watching the same game and it's the same things happening, the same guys that are guilty. Anderson, I can't say all the goals were bad, but it's just like, where is Carolina's defense? And it just, you gotta wonder when they start to make moves. When is a change coming there? Like, I know Brendan Moore is treated like a god down there, but he hasn't given you the results to be treated like one. Like, if your bar is that you got back to the conference finals for the first time since since what,
2 years ago, but the first win.
No, it was at first it was 2009. They get back to the conference finals in 2019 for the first time since 2009. Yeah. So if that's the bar, if he gets the pass because of that, then I would say the bar is low because you've had him there for the better part of a decade now, and they haven't gotten past that point. And they have one conference finals win in that entire time that he's been there. So, he can get you there, but he clearly can't get them over the hump. This lack of center depth cannot get them over the hump. The defensive play is simply not good enough. Brett Burns, I think it's time for you to retire, buddy. Get ready to learn vacation mode. And then,
Shaq.
Seriously. And then Gossesbeer, he was the guy putting up points on the back end. But if he's the guy that's putting up points on your back end, like, really, if that's the answer, what the hell is the question? That's the phrase I go to all the time at that point. Because it's just, there's not enough there. And then, the goaltending, we've talked about that end over end. I feel like just get me the dead horse so I could beat it with a stick, because that's really what we've done with their goaltending issues over the last 5, 6 years or so. And it just, nothing's changing here. And they're going to go back at it again the same way that they've gone about it all these other times. And it's going to be the same results. You know what? For everyone else in the division, great. Keep doing that. It's like just keep trying to shove that round peg into the square hole and failing miserably. But at what point, if you're a Carolina fan, and Pete, I don't know if you're out there in the stream watching, but at what point do you want your team's front office to actually make some changes? Because it's got to happen.
Now, you know what? They need to run it back out there over and over again. And if you want to know all you need to know about Andrei Svechnikov, well, there was a chance to tie the game, or was it to take the lead when they were on the power play late? He had a wide open shot from the
tie
slot.
the game. That was late, and it was the tie the game.
And even though they tied the game after that, and he was part of the reason why they did it, I mean, that's what Svetch is. Matt,
Aho missed the net too. He had a chance to tie that game very late, and he missed.
Matt, take it over. What do you think?
I mean, just looking at Carolina, right? I mean, it's clear that they need to make major moves. I mean, they tried to do that with this year at the deadline with taking that big swing at Mikko Rantanen. It's clear that there wasn't, what's called due diligence done there, because obviously he wanted a long-term extension, but obviously he just didn't want to do it in Carolina, and he asked out. And to be fair to Tulsky and the Hurricane front office, like, they did a good job at rebounding after that trade with obviously getting Stankoven, which is a very nice piece to have for the future. But yeah, this Carolina team, it's time for a change with them. It's clear that they need a retool. I mean, obviously, because I was watching back the stream that you guys did earlier, and Phil basically put it the best. I mean, it's like, when you compare this team to the 22 team, the 23 team, even the team of last year, they're older, but two, they're worse. They're a lot worse on D. I do like Carolina's offensive depth, but it's clear that it's not as strong as it was, back a couple years ago. And simply, they just don't have enough top end scoring. I mean, listen, I like Sebastian Aho. I think he's a very good centerpiece. I like Seth Jarvis on the wing. Like I said, I like the addition of Stankoven in the Rantanen trade. But Svechnikov, does he do it for you? No, and he was terrible. I mean, how many terrible penalties did he take in the series alone, aside from just not showing up and producing the points wise? So I think it's time for them to hit the retool button, because I mean, even like you said, Phil, again, that center depth is just cooked. Because I mean, like I said, I like Aho, but you have Jordan Staal, who, listen, Jordan Staal has been a very good player in his NHL career. Obviously, won a cup in 2009 with the Pittsburgh Penguins, but he's old and he's past his best. And listen, he's still a very good defensive center, no doubt, but it's clear that the offensive numbers are no longer there. And then Jesperi Kotkaniemi, this guy stinks. He's terrible. He's awful. I mean, that offer sheet that they made from
out of pettiness,
it made no sense. So yeah, for me, it's clear it's time to hit the reset button. I mean, they just gave Brind'Amour an extension as well, so I don't exactly know what you're going to do with Brind'Amour. And then obviously on top of that, the goaltending, not great again. I mean, and then just looking more at the defense, right? Like, obviously, I like them bringing in Sean Walker on defense last year. That's a guy who I wanted the Rangers to pick up. But I mean, Brent Burns, like we were saying, he's old, past his best. He needs to, probably end up retiring soon. Dmitry Orlov, again, terrible series, terrible playoffs overall. That's a guy that I want the Rangers to stay away from this upcoming free agency. I want no part of Dmitry Orlov. Shane Gostisbehere is all right, but again, just lacking the deepness on the D-core. So yeah, for me, it's clear that they need to go in the direction of just retooling.
Also, by the way, just to add to what Bailey's saying right here, first off, to be fair, but they're in a decent spot to make changes, tons of cap space. Canes aren't going to use the cap space. They aren't going to make changes. They're going to add a couple of fourth liners or depth pieces and then call it a day. They're not going to ever have the stones to ever throw to go get a major star or to change up their lineup in any way. So congratulations. You're going to be back maybe in the second round when you face another inferior Metropolitan Division team. And then you're going to be either out in the second round because the Metro actually has a good team, or you're going to make it to the conference finals and get whooped. It's that easy. Evan, take it away. Well, we're on Carolina right now. So what went wrong with Carolina?
The only thing I'll disagree with on your point with Carolina not having the stones to do it is I think they would. I mean, they tried with Rantanen. I just don't think guys are going to want to sign there. I think that's the bigger issue than anything. And then I don't know if they're how much their internal cap truly is because they clearly are running on one. But the problem is you just look at that team and the ceiling clearly is conference finals because Jake Gensel fit perfectly there. They should have done everything in their power to keep him around, but that might go to what I'm saying where guys just don't want to sign there. And, that's a bigger issue when you're trying to get over the hump and you're not able to. I think they're going to have to look to the trade market. And I was talking about this with my brother, just having like a random conversation. This wouldn't be like getting a star player, but maybe just to add to their top six. I think if you move Svechnikov, which I was saying in the comments on Tuesday, like they should try to do it. Maybe a team like Buffalo makes sense, and you could get a guy maybe in return like Peterka, like Tuck. You could add maybe Byram to the back end and make some sort of big change in that way. It's not enough, but at least it's something. They just have to change something up, and then Rod Brindamore with the system too. And I was defending Rod a bit because of the roster. But then I look at that goal that Verhaeghe scored, and I'm like, that is exactly why we talked about with the Rangers man-on-man system being piss poor, because Orlov goes chasing Barkov around the net, and then it leaves Verhaeghe wide open at the doorstep because he's chasing him to go man-on-man, and then Verhaeghe has an easy tap in there to score, and Barkov has an unbelievable assist there. So the problem is I don't think Rod's going anywhere. I think I've said it for a bit now. I think next year is when we're going to start to see him on the hot seat, and that's just the hot seat at the very least. I don't know if he goes anywhere, but something has to change at least with the roster this offseason. You at least have some ammo to do it with the picks they got from Rantanen, with the fact that they do have players like Svechnikov, which maybe they can move. It's just a matter of if they have the stones to do it. But, I mean, they did it with Natchez, and I know it's a different scenario, but they need to at least try it because this is not working and this roster is not good enough. And adding depth, sure, it will help, but it's not going to be the end all be all because at the end of the day, and even though Aho had a good game tonight, I still have questions if he's a good enough 1C on a cup winning team. And 1Cs don't grow on trees, but they have to add at least some sort of good 2C behind him then to help because Jordan Stahl, it's just not good enough.
Evan, you did hit the nail on the head with that, and look, you're fair with your comment on they did make the trade for Rantanen, so at least they were trying. They didn't do the due diligence in any way, but
because he definitely did not want to be there.
Yeah, he didn't want to be there in any way. It's just as far as Carolina goes, they keep running back the same thing over and over again. And I know what Bluegrass is saying right here. Is it fair to call them the Buffalo Bills with a championship? Actually, they're closer really to the Andy Reid Philadelphia Eagles that made, I think it was 5 consecutive NFC final conference championships and won one of them. But this is the team that everybody can see their holes. And I'm not convinced the system is good enough. That's a different story. But let's go back to the team that did win.
I just want to jump in and add one more thing, too. That I think the biggest enemy is the fact that the Metro Division is not good enough to help them identify that they're not good enough. I think that's a huge problem because they took advantage of a very weak Metro team. New Jersey was banged up so much. And then on top of that, I mean, Washington, we call them the PDO Kings for a reason. So I think that was the other. Did I say something that warranted a pause, or did Mark?
No, Mark, when he said we can see their holes, that definitely.
Okay, all right.
I definitely knew that's where that was coming from.
Okay, I thought I missed one on myself.
Great,
there, but
great job, Mark. Phrasing, man.
My bad, Evan.
You're good. I can't slip over that pause, but I just think that the biggest issue is that the Metro's weak, and it's making them think that they are better than they actually are.
And yeah, and you Bailey and you know, I think Evan, you might have touched on this a little bit, but I mean they do have cap space available. They're going to be losing some guys. Jack Roslovic, everybody's favorite ex-Ranger, is going to be gone. That's 2.8 million. Your favorite, Eric Robinson, that's another 950K right there, right off the cap. So that's just under 4 million. But the big guns that are going are Dmitry Orlov at 7.75 and Brent Burns at 5.28. So you're losing or you're gaining rather, I would say 16 to 17 million in cap space right there. And I mean, if you wanted to go after a Mitch Marner and give yourself some wing depth, that's great, because I don't know who's really available at center this offseason that can really fix their center depth issue, because that's the big thing.
Jesper Foss is also off the books.
What's that?
Jesper Foss is off the books as well.
Yeah, that's
2.4.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because he's been on long-term injury reserve. But yeah, that's another 2.4 million in cap space that they'll have. So again, you're talking about 18, maybe 19 million and when it's all said and done in cap space. So I mean, they could try to go get Marner, but this point is actually a great point. He vetoed a deal there for Rantanen.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because he wanted to stay in Toronto and try to win a championship in Toronto, or he didn't want to play in Carolina at all.
I think it's a mix of both, because you have to remember too, I mean, his wife was like 8 months pregnant at that point too. Like having her uproot to another country, nonetheless city, is like a big ass there. I don't know. I think it's
but
both,
I don't know if he. But even with the thing is that he's a pending free agent. So a lot of times when that happens, they usually stay behind, and then that gets figured out in the offseason. So
that's true.
I mean, even though with Marner, I don't see him fitting Rod's system at all. It was basically like another Rantanen. I mean, we know that Marner's not a bad defensive player, but in terms of Rod's system, it's like you're going 200 miles an hour every single night, every single shift. I just don't see Rod's system meshing well with Marner's play style. And we even saw Rantanen for the short time that he was in Carolina. His offensive numbers declined a lot. And a lot of people were saying that, maybe, this was because, Rantanen's a product of Nathan McKinnon. But then obviously as we go and he gets traded to Dallas, we saw all those myths basically just get thrown out the window, because he's went there and he's basically just took off in that system in Dallas.
You touched on something good there. And the reason why Rantanen, he didn't really fit in there, was because he plays off the rush. Marner plays the same type of hockey. He's better off the rush as opposed to cycling down low and going low to high like Carolina loves to do. So I don't think he's personally a fit there, but they're going to have to do something to change things around. So, I mean, I wonder if they enter the sweepstakes regardless, because I don't think they seem to care when they went after Rantanen. I mean, how can you not have your pro scouting staff look at that guy, look at the style of play, look at the tape, and say, oh, this guy plays off the rush. He's great for a team that loves to just endlessly cycle down low.
And having the right player in the right system matters, even if you have the Rantanen situation where he's playing for a contract. He didn't want to be in a completely different system that's going to affect his numbers. And on the other hand, a guy that did sign the contract, I'm going to go always back to Jonathan Huberdeau for this one, because he went to Calgary, signed the contract, and he's been a shade of what he used to be, because he's just not in a system that accentuates what he does best. So you want to make sure that the player is going to be happy and you're actually using the player the right way. But guys, let's get back to the Panthers and their run, them going back to the finals, but they did tonight. Evan, why don't you start us off?
I mean, going into it, to me, and I talked about this with Matt in our group chats and just in person a lot, that we both agreed that whoever came out of that Tampa, Florida series was going to the Cup from the East. So to me, it's not a surprise that they made it. It's just the fact that they look this dominant doing it yet again, because Tampa Bay, I mean, they looked like child's play against them. And then Toronto gave them a bit of a fight, but the losses that Toronto had were really ugly losses. And I mean, I got shades of the Rangers Tampa series in that game 3 where Toronto had the lead and then Florida ends up winning either way. But they are easily the deepest team in the entire playoffs left. My only thing that I'll say that I'm not happy about with Florida making it is the Ranger fans that will run with the Bobrovsky narratives now. But that team, I mean, it is just, it's unbelievable what they're able to do. I mean, just finding the names that they did, making them elite, and the buy-in, just looking at the end of the game even where they're not hopping the boards the way that most teams would after winning a conference finals. They're not even like smiling with the Prince of Wales trophy. They got just like the stone cold ice in their veins type of look. Like, job's not done. Like, the standards are higher than this. We got to go win a cup now. It's just, I'm jealous of it. I got to be honest. I'm jealous of it.
Yeah, I think we all are a little jealous of it.
We would love it if our teams were so systematic like that. And that's the best way to say that one. Matt, what do you think? Florida joining elite ranks.
I mean, Mark, we talked about this before we went live here, but it's just, they're so dominant and they're so cool. They're composed. They know what to do, and they go out there and they take care of business like what an elite team should do. Like, and basically they've shown it. They've been there. They've done that. They know how to win. And personally, like I said, I picked them to go back to back on my bracket. I think they're going to go back to back. They're so dominant. And the thing about Florida that I love is like, because like even when you look at the rosters from the team that went to the final in 23, from the team that went to the final in 24 and 25 now, it's like the main core has stuck together. The main core has stuck together, but all the surrounding pieces around them have changed. And it's you and me and Evan always talk about this all the time in our group chat. Like, you have to give so much credit to Bill Zito and their analytics department. Absolutely. On how that they could just find these guys as as they revolve the supporting cast around that main group core of guys, and they could just keep running it back every single year. And it's just like, and even I brought this up before we went live, the great thing about the Panthers, and this was something that I noticed watching them a lot last year, they can win in so many different ways. They could either outgrind you, they could outscore you, or they could simply shut you down. And that's what I love about, watching this team so much. And listen, I think the great thing about this team is they're set up for the future so good, because, we talk about, the cap going up and how that's going to help teams. Florida, now listen, say what you want about the no state tax and the contract discounts they get on the contracts. They are so well set up for the future, because I mean, they're in a position right now where they could win back-to-back Stanley Cups. Now, next year, it's going to be a little bit difficult just because you have Sam Bennett, who's most likely going to test the free agent market. He's probably going to leave because another team will overpay him. We'll see what that is going to be. You also have Aaron Ekblad, who's a free agent, and I don't think he's going to come back either. I think I brought this up before, but I think that Seth Jones trade that they made back in February, March, I think that was ideally the long-term solution and the replacement for what's it called, Aaron Ekblad. But then even then, when you look at it past then, so I mean, there's a chance that they could step back next year. But because, like I mentioned, with their contract situations, and then the fact that Sergei Bobrovsky's contract and his money, I was going to ask you to bring this up, and the fact that his money comes off the books, not this offseason, but the next offseason after, they could be very well set up to go target one of the big boys. And me and Evan talked about this too, where they could potentially go target a guy like Jack Eichel. And then imagine if you have that center core where you have Barkov, Eichel, Lundell. That is absolutely disgusting. If I could ever watch that, I mean, that would be simply incredible. I mean, listen, I get that we also get on Bobrovsky a little bit too, just because he hasn't exactly lived up to that contract that he signed back in the summer of 2019. But what? I gotta give Sergei Bobrovsky his flowers today, because when Carolina was dominating that game early, Bob kept them in that game. He made a ton of huge saves early on when they were down 2-0. And even at the end of the game, when Bennett takes that penalty with Carolina being up on the power play with 3 minutes left in the game, he made a ton of huge saves to keep the Panthers up in that game. And then obviously, You saw Sam Bennett come in there with the empty netter to seal the deal. And then also, just you got to give credit to Alexander Barkov. That move that he pulled off to set up Carter Verhaeghe on the ultimate game-winning goal, that was absolutely disgusting. And I wish the Rangers could have a number one elite center like that.
Especially a number one elite center that shuts down the opposition the way Barkov does.
Yeah.
I had to grin though before I send this over to Phil, that we could give Bobrovsky a lot of praise for a lot of the saves that he made. That Seth Jarvis goal was a pretty bad one. Phil?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, all right. So apparently that was traded to Boston. The 2027 pick is traded to Boston now because of the Marchand playing the 50% of the games and they're making the finals. So the condition has now been met.
I heard it was met today. That making the conference finals said that in there, but all right, keep going, Phil.
Yeah, but all right. So they don't have a first round pick for the next few years, but you're not worrying about that if you're a team that's going back to the Stanley Cup Finals, for 3 times in a row. And then this question here: do we think that the Cup runs will eventually take its toll on them? I mean, I'll answer this. I think at some point maybe because of all the hockey that they'll play, but right now it's not showing any signs. And it's really for me, they're the aggressors and they're the team that plays super physical. I think if anything, what's going to take a toll on them more is going to end up being losing Bennett and Ekblad if they don't replace Ekblad. I think Bennett, they're going to have Lundell step into there, and that's your second line center of the future. You've got 2 good, you got 1 elite, the best 2-way center in the league, in the world, in Barkov, and then you have another good 2-way center in Lundell stepping into second line minutes. You could just go get a third line center and you're still right there. But you have others that are coming up and that are going to join your lineup permanently. Like Mackie Samoskevich is going to get more of a role. I mean, he's going to be a restricted free agent, but he's not going to cost all that much. I mean, Seth Jones is there long term. He's going to be your puck mover and your power play guy, your power play quarterback. I mean, Gustav Forsling is only 28, and he's signed long term at a sweetheart deal. Nico Mikkola's got 1 year left, and then he's going to require a raise. Kulikov seems like he turned into a good third pairing guy, and he's there for the next 3 years after this at $1.15 million. And then, like you said, Matt, Bobrovsky got 1 year left after this, and then that cap hit is removed. And if you can go find a goaltender that's cheap and that's reliable enough to just get you there and be reliable and give you like a 9-10 save percentage in the playoffs, like you're going to have a very good recipe for sustainability, even with Verhaeghe, going from 4.16 to 7 million, and Reinhart, at 8.625 going forward. I mean, they have everything set up like perfectly, and they can go make ads. They'll have enough cap space during the season to go make ads. It's just really replacing Ekblad now. That's going to be the big thing for them. Do they go get Gavrikov and give that type of money to Gavrikov? Because when you look at it, Aaron Ekblad, the last couple of years or so has not put up the points that he put up a few years ago when he was like an all-star. Like he had a 57-point season in 21-22, 38 in 71 games, 18, 33 this year in 56 games. You could realistically take the drop off in offense from Ekblad to Gavrikov, who's still a very good shutdown defenseman himself, and then have Seth Jones step up and give you more of the offensive numbers to basically cover that.
Yeah, I mean, the one really good team that I love about how this Panther team is set up, not only with the cap space, but just the age too of their core guys. Because I mean, when you look at everything, right? Because obviously, I think Bennett's going to leave in free agency, but guys like Barkov, Kachuk, Verhaeghe, Reinhart, Forsling, Seth Jones, guys like that. Those are all guys, and even Lundell is 23 years old. But all those other main guys, they're around 28, 29, 30 years old. So they are very much set up for, a couple more deep runs, in their tenure together as a core. And I mean, also, they brought in a guy also like Brad Marchand, who perfectly fits their system and the play style that they play with. And, that's a guy also that I could see, come back next year, on the cheaper side deal, to try, run it back again and go for another cup run. So, like I said, you got to give major credit to Bill Zito, because I mean, just from everything, how he identified that this team needed a change from the core and a change from the play style in 2022, and just seeing how the balls he had to make that big trade with shipping out Huberto and Uyghur to go get Matthew Tkachuk, and then it's just seeing the type of runs that they're making now. It's simply incredible. Bill Zito has done an excellent job there.
That man's gonna get a statue at this rate. I mean, him and Sonny Meta are just like, the work they're doing. It just, I foam at the mouth as a Ranger fan over it. And I'm not concerned personally about the losses that they're going to have, because Florida's proved over the past few years, you know what? We'll just find someone on the free agent market for cheap and then just turn them into a good player. Like, I don't know, maybe Christian Dvorak, they just randomly signed, and then all of a sudden he buys in and becomes good. Like Nick Perbix, all of a sudden just replaces Ekblad. Like, I could just see them going out there, signing the most random names that you don't think are going to be good. Like, I don't know, Nick Bjugstad maybe goes back there, and they all just buy in no matter what. Like, that's what you admire about them, is that they buy in because of the culture that they've brought there, thanks to the changing moves that they made, Paul Maurice and everyone. And, from the top, again, with Bill Zito and Sonny Meta, having them buy into the fact that they know what they're doing. They know what changes they're making. They know it's the right ones, and they're just so analytically driven that it does not matter who they get. Like, it's going to work no matter what. They've shown that with every single player they've got over the past few years.
I'm glad you said it, Evan, because I wanted to actually say and sound like a genius once I said it, that the one guy we haven't given any credit yet to is Paul Maurice, who's done a fantastic job since going to Florida. He was the perfect replacement for Andrew Brunette, who was a finalist for Coach of the Year that year. And but they were paying their goalie $10 million at the time. I think it's also easy when you have what the core was in place, when you had Barkov, when you had Huberto,
when you rebuild the right way.
Yeah, and then you identify, this is what I want the team to be. You don't have several different lines that want to do different things. Everybody in this team is all focused on the same goal, every one of them. And they are looking to make your life miserable, maybe in different ways. Barkov can shut you down, and then he'll just pass the puck over to Verhaeghe, quick strike, bang, back of the net. You're down a goal. Okay, then you throw out the Tkachuk line, you're going to get bruised. Then you throw out the Lundell line. Last year, it was more, you're going to get shut down. And this year, now you have Marchand and Luostarinen that's throwing the body around. I mean, Luostarinen has had a great playoff, and not a lot of us have been able to talk about him because he's been out the last couple of games. This week off is really going to help him. It's going to help a lot of the guys that banged up, looking at Connor Brown in Edmonton, should they're able to close that out rather quickly. This is a team, guys. It's hard for me to bet against them, but then again, I did. I didn't think they were going to win. I didn't think they were going to get past Tampa. I didn't think Edmonton was going to get past LA. And now look at us now. We're one win away from a finals rematch for the first time since 2009.
Yeah, it's just crazy to think about, because you're right. It's like another key in the cog. It's like a well-oiled machine. They did everything that they needed to do right. The rebuild was correct. The reclamation projects have been big for them. I mean, getting Reinhart, Verhaeghe, and Forsling, as reclamation projects and hitting on those. I mean, I don't know if you would really credit their developmental or their scouting staff or both for that, but I mean, you got a bunch of hits on that, and it just, I can't think of another example of three players that were really kind of just cast-offs like that came along and have had sustained success to that level.
I mean, the other one too that people forget about. I mean, you take a look at last year, a guy that went to Vancouver after his long tenure in Arizona, and he was pretty much considered washed by many others. And Florida picked him up, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and obviously he got the big payday in Toronto. But that's just again how their developmental staff, their analytics staff, and just everything, like how they could just identify these players on the cheap, bring them in, fix them, help them win, and then boom, they basically just go out there and get paid. I mean,
Montour too.
Montour.
Yeah, that's another one.
And Montour, yep.
Montour before signing with Seattle was a guy that had like a 70-point season. It's crazy that you can go and have that type of production there. But again, this is what happens when you have the right people in the right places within your front office and the right mentality. The other thing for me, and I know everybody talks about speed and how everything is a speed game these days and speed and transitional play. The one thing that Jeff Marek brought up today that I was watching was that who is really a burner on that team? Barkov's not a burner. He's not a particularly fast skater by any measure. Neither is Reinhart. Neither is Kachuk. Lundell's not somebody that blows you out of the water. I mean, so it's really the fact that they play as physical and as smart as they do. Because Evan, you said it before, or Matt, maybe it was you, but we were talking about the different ways that they beat you in, whether they shut you down. Was you?
Yeah,
that was Matt.
Yeah, it was Matt. Okay, yeah. So it was just all the different ways that they beat you in. But I mean, the most consistent way that they beat you, from what I see at least, is the fact that they just go out there and they just grind you down and they make your life hell. It's not that they're fast; they play fast.
And I want to.
That's a point I was going to bring up too. It's not that individually they're fast, but it's the system that sets them up to make them look like they're fast. Because when you take a look at, and this was a big thing that hurt the Rangers last year, and Florida really exploited them for that. But the puck movement from defensemen up to your forwards, because we always say the old cliche in hockey is the puck moves faster than the players.
Yeah.
So when you move the puck as effectively as that, you're going to look faster. And then when you look at their transition defense, how they're able to stifle teams in the neutral zone, create quick turnovers, and then quickly move the puck forward, and then get on the forecheck and create high danger chances like that. That's what makes Florida look like a quicker team. And like we said, like maybe player for player they're not, but it's just, again, it's how well the system set up is and how well the team was built and how well, Paul Maurice has really implemented that play style on these specific players.
And I don't know if you guys saw the mic'd up version of Paul Maurice after Game 6 versus Toronto, but he was saying, dump pucks in and, wear their D down for Game 7. Pause. But wear them down for Game 7 and burn them out so they have nothing left going into that.
Yeah.
Now, guys, before I ask the question, had that been me, because I would like to ask about something that happened 2 seasons ago. Has it happened since then for the Florida Panthers? But first, let's talk a little bit about a player. And Evan, I'm going to go right back to you again. How much of a mistake was it for the New York Rangers to let Mikkola get away?
I mean, in hindsight, yeah, it was a big mistake. In the moment, I wasn't too mad about it because it definitely would have cost more than Florida paid to retain Nico Mikkola because of what we talk about with the state tax and everything. But that was a guy that fit perfectly. I mean, he filled in perfectly when Ryan Lindgren went down. Like, next to Adam Fox, he looked serviceable. It sucked to lose him, but this is what happens as well when your front office is stubborn to move on from guys like Barclay Goodrow earlier than he should have. When he's stubborn to identify certain issues and waits until later on, like he should have, because if he identified Ryan Lindgren wasn't as good earlier, then we wouldn't have ran into these issues. If he identified Barclay Goodrow was a waste of cap space, we wouldn't have ran into these issues. And you're talking about maybe Mikkola and Vetrano both being Rangers instead right now versus, having Goudreau the extra year that they did and then having Ryan Lindgren there. And who knows if that changes much, but at least it's something different, a different look with the team. It sucks, but at the same time, I do think Florida, there's something to be said too about Florida bringing his game up to another level and him fitting into that system just perfectly.
As I'm watching Drew do a dance right now on the post-game show. Matt?
Yeah, I hated losing Mikkola because I really liked him. And you know what? To be fair, when the Rangers first made that trade at the 2023 deadline to bring in Tarasenko and Mikkola, like, because obviously Tarasenko was the main headliner of that trade, and I didn't really know too much about Mikkola, to be honest, because I hadn't watched him that much in St. Louis. But when he came here for the short period of time, and I know a lot of people didn't exactly love him, but I thought he gave a style that the Rangers decor at that time just didn't have. And the one big thing that I really noticed about Mikkola for the short time that he was playing here was his ability to carry the puck up the ice, move the puck up the ice, and just his overall skating ability. Because again, we talk about the Rangers, like overall, like they're not a great skating team, and that's something that that Mikkola offers. And listen, I mean, I get it. I listen. I like his defense, and I know the other big gripe against him was he wasn't that physical. And I do agree with Evan. I think a thing about him going to Florida, I think that also did unlock the physicality in this game, because when you go to a team like that and you buy into that culture, you start to pick up on habits from other guys, especially the so-called the leaders on that team. And I think he picked up and he worked on the physical side in his game. And now overall, when you look at him and you see the solid defense, the ability to skate and move the puck up the ice, and now with that overall added physicality, it sucks that the Rangers did lose him, because I think he'd be a really effective piece on this blue line right now, especially when you look at the guys that the Rangers have now with Carson Soucy and Will Borgen. Oof.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Rangers are going to see a little bit more physicality because I think Mike Sullivan's going to coach that. Bilk?
Yeah, I mean, it sucks, but they couldn't really keep him. They just didn't have the cap. And you talk about the reasons why they didn't have the cap, but the fact of the matter is that they did not have the cap to keep him, and that's just, I don't know. I'm going to take a look at this comment here from Romanello. Yeah, he kind of was Strawman. He was kind of a reclamation project that, he had some upside, not a ton, but upside. And he comes to New York. He plays very well in an increased role, and they didn't have the cap space to keep him. So the ending was different because they mismanaged things with Strawman. Should have kept him and let the Super Corcio brothers go to purgatory with those dumbass deals that they gave them. But yeah, I really don't think that it wasn't smart. It really wasn't smart. I wish they would have done more to keep him. But yeah, I can't. 3 points in 31 games. I'm not worried about 3 points in 31 games. I'm worried about his defensive game. And his defensive game was very good. He looked better than Lindgren in Lindgren's role. If you're saying otherwise, I don't know what you're watching, because Lindgren hadn't looked good next to Fox in a while. And then Mikkola comes in, and you're like, wait, this guy's better at moving the puck. He defends better. He's got better range. He controls the gap better.
Let's not forget something else, Bilk. 6'5", 204 pounds.
So, Hockey Reference has him at 6'6". But, I mean, whether it's 6'5" or 6'6", it's like, I don't know. You almost kind of hope Radim Murka turns into a Nico Mikkola. And if that's what Radim Murka can turn into, that's a good prospect.
I also want to jump in just because while I was gone, I heard you talking about the cap space thing. Could I remind everyone, too, that offseason where Mikkola left consisted of them signing no one over $1 million. They signed Blake Wheeler, Jonathan Quick, and Eric Gustafson, Tyler Pitlick, too. Like, Nick Bonino. That was the offseason. Like, sure, you could argue that instead of signing some of those guys, they could have, but the long story short, they had to make changes then. After that Devil series is when they should have started making some changes, and they failed to do that, and now this is where we are.
Yeah, I would agree. You should have made the changes then. I just don't know if you could have. Trouba, they
That's the
didn't
problem
really.
with Trouba. I mean, I think Lindgren and Goudreau should have been gone after that series.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would have let Lindgren go, especially if you were going to only sign him for 1 year at 4.5. Why? Just
Yeah.
trade him at that point. You know you're not bringing him back, and you know his game's declining.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would have found a way to try to keep Mikkola, move other guys. But then again, this is what happens when you spend money on Jacob Trouba, and he was, I mean, the contract is worthless a month in. Sorry, if there's some people that believe that I'm wrong on that, go ahead, send me hate mail. But
That contract's one of the worst contracts I've seen recently.
Yeah, he was brought in to be a guy that would be their number one defenseman, number one power play quarterback, and the guy to match up against the other team's best players. And the only way he was able to get the other team's best players off their game was to elbow them in the head. So let's call it what it is. Let's go to had that been me, and I was asking about this one because 2 years ago the Florida Panthers touched the Prince of Wales trophy. Phil, had that been me, do you touch it?
No, I don't touch it.
Matt?
I mean, I don't believe in superstitions, but overall, that's not the main trophy that I want. I want the big one. I want the cup. So, no, there's no reason to touch it.
Evan, would you do it?
You should have said pause after that, but
Sure.
I wouldn't have touched it. I'm the opposite of Matt. I'm obnoxiously superstitious. When I watch playoff games, I have to sit at a certain spot on the couch. Got to wear a certain jersey, wear a certain outfit. Like, they keep the TV volume at the same exact number. I'm obnoxiously superstitious in that regard. So no, I would not touch it.
I tend to be either incredibly superstitious or not at all. I mean, I can't explain how I can vary that much. But the one thing I could always think about is you have all these teams that don't touch it. They always say that. What was the most cursed superstitious team ever? The 94 New York Rangers. Mark Messier grabbed the Prince of Wales trophy. So it's just whatever it is.
Whatever happens,
Guys,
happens.
looking forward to tomorrow night, and anybody just go ahead and jump in on this one. Is Edmonton going to close it out, or is this going 6?
Yes, because I texted in the group chat that I'm in with Matt. I said Dallas in 6 going into the series, and then I said right after, which means Edmonton's going to win in 4 or 5. So Edmonton's going to close it out tomorrow.
I think Edmonton's closing it too. Sorry.
Yeah, I think ultimately Edmonton will close out the series. I could see a world where Dallas forces Game 5 just because they don't want to lose on home ice. But even then, if they go back to Edmonton for Game 6, Edmonton's going to close it out. So either way, in 5 or 6, it doesn't matter for me. Edmonton will go to the final.
I think it's amazing on how just more mentally strong both these teams are.
Yeah.
Edmonton is doing the same thing. Edmonton, they could have lost Game 5 to Vegas and then just closed it at home. Nope, they've closed that right there. They turned the tides against LA and made sure that they couldn't do anything. I mean, part of that has to also do with Jim Hiller doing that video review for no reason. And think about this: Edmonton could have been eliminated in the first round and down 3-0. All he had to do was not challenge a play that was already video reviewed. And then you now look at Edmonton. Just they got a killer instinct too. It's going to be a good Stanley Cup Finals, guys.
Yeah, I just Edmonton for me is like the one team that I could see really giving them problems because their team speed and the way that they play, and they play super fast as well. That's a team that I could see giving them problems. So, I mean, especially if their top 2 guys are committing to playing a 200-foot game, the type of game that shuts them down, if they can kind of go in and cancel that out and play even and leave it up to their depth. I mean, Florida's depth is better than theirs, and their goaltending is better, so that's why I would see Florida winning it again. But if they can get some contributions from their depth in that series, then they might be able to pull it off.
Just to mention, and before we get to this, one of the comments from Bluegrass was that Mika and Lindgren played better under Gallant and Laviolette. Laviolette had him playing more structured and better defensively. So,
Yeah, but also like Phil was commenting, those guys had their best years under Quinn, so it's a moot point. Like,
Yeah,
that doesn't mean Quinn's a good coach.
Yeah, that whole statement is a non sequitur. It's a complete non sequitur. So what he's trying to say is that Laviolette isn't as great as people make him out to be. Okay, so then why was it that they had a President's Trophy season under him in his first year? Artemi Panarin has a career year. Vincent Trocheck has a career year. Adam Fox has a Norris caliber type year. Like if it not for the injuries, he might have been right there in it. And Alexis Lafreniere has a breakout year. All these guys have big years. Chris Kreider has the second biggest year of his career. Why is it then that all those guys had it that year? But when Chris Drury comes in and hurts a couple of guys' feelings, and everybody, oh, this is the worst experience of my life. Barclay Goodrow. Oh, I feel so bad. I can't come to work anymore. When that happens, why is it that when everybody quits, Laviolette is not as good, but he's great when he gets everybody to buy in that first year? Obviously, the group wasn't good enough, and they quit. So it's not a issue as much as it is a core issue.
I'll reiterate this again, Phil. Who's the two winningest American coaches of all time?
John Tortorella and Peter Laviolette.
Yeah, and they ruffle feathers. That's what they do. And you listen to those guys.
Not even Laviolette that ruffled the feathers. It was Drury.
That's the thing. Like, I said it all season. There were things I didn't like with Laviolette, like the stubbornness to change from the man-on-man and certain things. But you can't sit here and blame everything on Laviolette when last year, I mean, he was getting all the praise for doing everything right. Like, you can't play both sides of the fence here.
Yeah, exactly.
You just can't. Like, sure, he wasn't as sharp behind the bench this year, but at the end of the day, this falls more on the players that have had multiple coaches now and the GM for not identifying the changes and also making poor changes on top of that at certain points.
3 coaches in 6 years. When does it become the boy that cried wolf? Mm-hmm. And I asked that question several times. When does it become the boy that cried wolf? And Boyle's right.
Yeah.
Boyle's right. They were soft. They gave up. Their feelings were hurt. And if you want to talk about this, then okay, maybe you can make the argument that Drury overreacted to a losing streak. Or maybe Chris Drury identified that this group wasn't good enough. They were too mentally soft and changes needed to be made.
It was not an overreaction. Anyone that watched that 12-4-1 start could have told you that it was not as good as the record indicated because they beat up on Detroit like 3 different times. And then the other teams they were beating were garbage. They were only beating up on the Penguins, the Red Wings. I'm forgetting who else was in that grouping, but they were beating up Montreal. Like, those were the teams. And even then, they did not look good in some of those wins.
They lost a game to Columbus.
Yeah, they lost at home opener. Bad. They lost at home opener to Utah, or they gave up 6 goals.
But the other thing that was more alarming, and there's 2 things I'll say about this. One was the home game against the Florida Panthers, these Florida Panthers that are going to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yep.
When that was
games. It wasn't just 3 games. They released that in November.
And on top of that, when Trouba's going in saying this is the last dance, that means there was discussions in the offseason about how Drury didn't think the team was good enough to begin with. So prove me wrong, or else you guys are gone.
I'm even pretty sure because I was listening to that Up in the Blue Shirts podcast with and Brooksy and Boyle were on there, and it was either Brooksy or Boyle said it, but he said that even going into training camp there was already friction between the players and Laviolette. So it's like, and at that point, like, how is there friction already between the players and the coach? I mean, it just shows you again. We talked about this before, but it just shows how soft that this group of players is. That you hurt their feelings one time and they cry and bitch about it and moan.
Again, dimension in with this. Drury was seeing how they were playing. They were constantly giving up the first goal on the first shot that they saw, sort of like the Vancouver game. I believe it was Quinn Hughes that got that one.
Yep.
They weren't playing well going in. Look, we could say all we want to about Chris Drury. He doesn't like the way his team's playing, and we all kind of saw it. And then you look at them. And when they go out west. I mentioned the game against Vancouver. They did give up the first goal early. They were tough enough to get through there. Then you go up against a Calgary team that doesn't generate a lot of shots. They blitz Sirkin with over 40 shots. Then they go to Edmonton. I hear that they can actually provide some offense. There's a rumor they might have a couple players that are talented. And they run the Rangers right out of the building. This team was not mentally tough. Where that mental toughness was that they had last year, it was gone in November, and it was quite obvious. And they still, and I said this before, you have to ask the questions, how can we get better? How can we improve? And if your decision was get rid of Barclay Goodrow and then bring in Riley Smith, that wasn't going to do it.
It's like Matt said, though, it was gone in training camp, the mentality. Like, that's why I got into a back and forth with Jackie Redmond on Twitter in November, because she was telling me like, oh, the Rangers are a top end team because of the record and everything. And I'm like, there's deeper issues than you're making it out to be. Like, I'm sorry. And I'm not trying to, put down the work you're doing for the media, but like, the problem is you can't look at the record and just be like, yeah, this is what it is. And because I think it was when she was talking about how it was ridiculous to release a memo and everything. And I'm like, it's not. There's a reason why.
And then we went and we did the show, What's Wrong with the Rangers? And I think right after that, St. Louis fired, or they hired, I should say, Montgomery.
Yeah.
And the Rangers are going to lose that game.
And St. Louis killed them at the Garden that night.
They killed them at the Garden.
They
because the St. Louis game 2 years before that was the one that saved Gallant.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then
I was at that game.
Later, it's the St. Louis game that really kind of helped start a downward spiral. Like
it was, and it was also funny too. Now that I recall, because when you go back to the 23-24 season, when the Rangers started that season very well playing defensively, the game that really the defense died was the game in late November against the Bruins, and Montgomery was still there. And then when you take a look at this season against the St. Louis, where Montgomery's there, and that's ultimately that's where the season just fully died right there.
Players were completely unprofessional.
I can't disagree with David's comment though. Like, listen, if you have heard me say anything about Drury, you would know that I think he should be facing accountability too. I think that both should, but the players quit. The players quit. Like,
yeah.
And
that's why this is as big of a disaster as it is right now, especially because of all the no movement clauses.
Yeah. To go with what Romanella's saying right there, was Trouba really that important in the locker room? No. Trouba really set the tone. Like, they were a bunch of mean girls. What they all were. They're like, can you believe they're trying to trade me? Good thing I completely screwed with them and put Detroit and said, I'm not going to report there. Shut up.
Yeah, I mean, and you could say Drury didn't handle it properly, but Trouba was completely unprofessional. He basically derailed their entire offseason, and he knew that he didn't want to be there. He knew that he was going to come back pouty. He came back pouty, and he ruined everything. And then Goodrow, I mean, it's a business. If that affects you that badly, then that's – yeah, I know what you two are laughing at. I've seen that one. But
that's true. She's much tougher.
No, I think Maria is tougher than Jacob Trouba, but that's another
much
story.
tougher.
No, that's not that hard to do.
Yeah, my wife from Queens is much tougher.
Maria is far more mentally tough than this group of players that were in that locker room this year. I can tell you that right now. But I mean, you talk about bringing his wife into it. I mean, I don't know what Larry Brooks only brought the residency thing up. He didn't bring his wife into it.
I'm sorry, I have to cut you off. I'm just so tired of the victiming, like him playing the victim there and people making him out to be some victim, because Oh, he exercised his right,
He
even
didn't
though
have
it
a
was
No, he
a
didn't.
partial no trade clause, not a full no trade clause, a partial no trade clause.
anything, he subterfuged it and did something that he shouldn't
Exactly.
have been doing by going back and leaking to teams that he wasn't going to report if traded.
Exactly.
Okay, you know what? If you're going to do that, then fair is fair.
Yeah, and again, just with this, look, you can have your complaints about Drury, but I think Drury also played the hand he was dealt. And I think at the end, when Trouba decided to torpedo it, he tried to do the right thing and tried to keep him around. But you know what? You can't always do that.
I mean, but listen, there is some points where, listen, if somebody wants to get petty, sometimes you got to go equally as petty, and that's why for me, I would have put his ass on waivers, and if no one picked him up, I would have stuck his ass in Hartford and let him play there. And I'm saying, listen, either you're gonna play in Hartford or you're gonna accept the team to another trade. It is what it is, because I could easily find the replacement for you for about $1 million or cheaper. So you could have it your way.
And here's where you're right, because there was the friction between Ben Simmons and the Philadelphia 76ers. And Doc Rivers got in his face and just said, oh, yeah, read your contract. That's all you had to say to Jacob Trouba. And then, he comes around and says, once I get fired, fired from
and yes, that is the case. But I hate to break this to you and to everyone else who brings this up or anything up about his wife's residency, but players get dealt all of the time and have to be away from their families. Jacob Trouba is not special.
Yeah.
He is not.
Wenberg got traded when his wife was basically in labor. And I'm pretty sure he also, I don't remember if it was him or someone else that got traded to the Rangers at the deadline that had a lot of issues with trying to get their car over. This isn't anything new. And I mean, we talked about with Marner earlier, how I was saying he didn't want to uproot his family, but the difference is he had a no trade clause. If he didn't have it, then he wouldn't have had a choice. He's not, it's not a unique situation. He's not the first player with a family. I hate to break the news to everyone, but he's not the only player with a kid.
If you want to talk about organizations that or players that were lied to, Brian Leach.
What James is saying is a great comment too. I mean, it's just that just how the league is.
This comment is one of the best comments I've seen about it.
Right.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Just use your contract.
And these are not, and military aren't millionaires that can hire house help, that can afford to fly the rest of their family where they are, and then could go back at any time. Military are people. This is.
And by the way, Romanel's right about this. Drury wasn't trading his wife. They could have figured this out. They had months to figure this out back in the summer. Instead, Trouba wanted to play hardball, and eventually Drury had to play hardball.
I think Trouba really thought for a minute that they weren't going to do this with him, and then he realized, oh shit, he's actually serious. I think it was a poker game, and Drury called Trouba's bluff, and Trouba couldn't believe it. And you know what? And the fact that he wants to go and he wants to trash the organization and play victim and all this other crap, you know what? For all I care, he could go fuck himself. I don't care. I just dropped an F-bomb. I don't care. He can go fuck himself. One of the worst captains I've ever seen in any sport.
Chris's comment's good too. I'm sorry, but this is a business, and you're not serious about winning if these are the things distracting you. I mean, this was another thing too. Keandre Miller at one point this year.
This was well known. This was known back in 2019 that she was a doctor that had a residency in New York.
And also, by the way, just to mention in with this, that's not what the important information was. The important information was that Trouba balked and said he wouldn't report the teams that he was going to acquire.
Too bad, Jacob. You went and you subterfuged trade protection that you did not have by being an unprofessional pile of shit.
I mean, I just don't know with that situation how the league doesn't step in there. Because I mean, we hear all the things like about tampering and soft tampering. I mean, that's basically you're just admitting to yourself that you tampered and fucked up a trade on purpose, even though you don't have the right to say, no, I don't want to go there. So it just makes no sense.
I just want to go back to what Chris was saying too, with like the players not serious about winning. I mean, that's why it stems through the locker room. I mean, we heard about Keandre Miller letting him breaking up with his girlfriend or some issues about Instagram posts or whatever affecting him mentally. It's just like, this is the problem with this group.
Yeah, it's too soft. Too soft.
But it's also in this generation that the same thing happened with Matt Harvey.
I disagree with this. I don't think Drury seems to want to be a friend of the players at all. I think if anything, it's the exact opposite. I think you can accuse him of being maybe too crude and too heartless. But you know what? Sometimes you have to be that way. This is a business. This is about winning. This is not about keeping Jacob Trouba with his wife because his wife has a residency somewhere and she's pregnant or whatever. You know what? Drury is nothing made but terrible trades.
No, I'm sorry. Sorry.
I don't totally agree with that. I don't think he's been the best, but I don't agree with that either.
And again, don't get Jeff Gordon's pass.
I mean, he made a great trade to get rid of Trouba. Are you going to tell me that's not a great trade?
The only unfortunate part is what he did the same day.
The Shesterkin deal was stupid, especially after and basically admitting that your core isn't good enough to win. Different story, but I mean, how many 6 defensemen did he trade for? Who was available that was really going to make a difference? Seth Jones?
You're going to go with Seth Jones? Nope.
Is that what we're doing?
And again, for all the talk with Drury, he at least made 2 conference finals.
I mean, it's an okay trade. He got rid of Trouba's entire $8 million without having to retain and got a roster player back. Not that I think
didn't he? You got a second rounder too?
No, it was
a second rounder went the other way. I'm sorry.
I think the argument here from David's end is just like the context that goes with these trades. Because like on the surface, yeah, the Trouba trade was great, but I mean, I agree with David that they should not have extended Euro Vakanainen. And the fact that they're tying themselves in the $6 million between him, Parson, and Susi next year is ridiculous.
There's a comment that I just read that I'm not gonna highlight it because I'm not gonna take a shot at anybody that's dealing with a medical issue. But on the other hand, again,
that's not the organization's
concern. Is Jacob Trouba and his contract.
It's not the organization
to circumvent his contract.
Sorry, but it's not. It's not their concern. So if that's what she's dealing with, I haven't heard anything about it, but it's not the organization's concern. Their concern is about winning and icing the best team possible. And whatever they have to deal with, you have millions of dollars to deal with it. You have millions of dollars, a support system, a family, whatever. You have to deal with that on your own.
And also teams have resources to try to help.
I can't stand the whole victim tour too that he went on, just like being on so many podcasts. And when he was on during the intermission of one of the Ranger games in December, I don't know if you guys remember that, like right after he got traded.
Yeah, it was the Penguin game.
That was the Penguin game, yeah.
That was the same
he was interviewed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was interviewed in the intermission of that game, like going on a victim tour. It just that was so freaking stupid.
And taking the shot
it's an honor to get fired from MSG. Like, bro, fuck
Shut
off.
up.
Go fuck off.
Shut up, you loser.
I mean, come on. And that's such sour
grapes. Drury answers to one guy. That's it. The power of friendship, family, whatever, that doesn't matter. What matters is winning. That's it.
And again, the number one player that Drury wants off this team wasn't even Jacob Trouba, because that player is still on the team right now because he is fed up with Artemi Panarin, and he's been that way since 2021. So take what you will out of that. We'll see how that goes the rest of the season. We still got like 100 people watching right now. How much longer do you guys want to go for?
I mean, I could go for as long as whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever you guys want to do. I mean,
I'll do another 10 minutes.
sure.
And an actual 10 minutes. We know how that turned out for me this afternoon, 45, 50 minutes later.
It really, it just, at this point, I mean, we've beaten a dead horse with it, but it's just like, what it comes down to is that he has a job, and that job is to put the best possible product on the ice. And Jacob Trouba, he subterfuged that by, ruining an entire offseason. He ruined an entire offseason. And that's really what it comes down to.
And also, let's not forget something else. I'm sorry. I could read the tea leaves. He also subterfuged it or put his name out there on the trade blocks because his no movement clause was changing. He constantly was running around, missing out on assignments. See Sam Bennett's Game 4 OT winner. And
Game 3 of Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and he wouldn't accept. I'm sorry. Whatever happened to him being a bottom six, a bottom three defenseman? I mean, he wouldn't accept a smaller role.
How about the other part where he handicapped them at the deadline too? Because if he truly cared about winning, he would have said, because of the injury, all right, I'll go on LTIR for the year. I'm probably not going to be ready to go until late March or April anyway. So I'll just sit on LTIR so you guys can make more moves. And he didn't do that. And he had to come back selfishly for 2 or 3 weeks. And the game he came back was one of their worst defensive games. Lafreniere gets a hat trick to save it. But they could have made more moves at the deadline as well if he wasn't stubborn about that.
The 5-point game against Arizona. And you notice that the defense got turned to shit the minute that he came back because they broke up Schneider and Miller, which was a very good second pairing. And then he steps in. They have that shit show of a game. The defense gets worse as the season goes on. And there you go. So, but the issue, the biggest issue that I have with all of it is the fact that you're right. He could have sat on LTR. He needed to heal up. And this is not the first time he's done that. Nope. He did that in 2022, 23.
With his hand.
Yeah. He needed to be sitting out. So I don't think they're drafting Ryabkin. Like I definitely don't see that at this point. Sorry, but I don't see it.
They're drafting
Russians
the North American.
Good.
I'll tell you right now, the one thing I want them to do is I want them to, if they can find a way to do it, if he can fall outside of the 5, out of the top 5, Denoye. Just find me a way to get up there and get Denoye. I just think that he's something about him. Just I feel like he could end up being the best player in this draft, and he reminds me a lot of Bergeron.
At this point, I would be shocked if they draft anyone in the first round that's not from North America. It's just Drury's MO.
I don't think the team said he was good to go. Like so Gallant even alluded to that. I mean, this is a guy that comes back early.
That, and even then, Mark Stone sits on LTIR. Like, there are times he's probably healthier earlier from his time.
Sat on LTIR for an entire season.
Exactly, yeah. Like, there are guys that have done it. So I just, again, I don't know what it is about his stubbornness, but that's why I never liked him, and that I didn't want him as the captain when they named him captain. And I got shit for it because I'm not in the locker room, but I didn't think there was anyone captain material. Sorry, Mark.
I know I'm bad timing on my part, Evan. Every time I was trying to jump on in, and every time, and you had so many guys that were willing to take that job. I mean, you had 2 guys that didn't want the other one to miss out on being a captain, and then you had another player that wanted nothing to do with it.
Yeah, that is true. He is the Kevin Nash wheelchair gif with the fake leg in the cast.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so true.
But this is This is a team that's got a lot of soul searching that they have to do in this offseason. And Chris Drury has now 4 weeks to figure this out. And the thing is, they can't make really major changes. What are they going to do?
Yeah, unless someone's willing to waive, they can't. And
Yeah.
I don't think the only guy I could maybe see waiving at this rate is Panarin, and that's a big maybe because I'm not even confident about it because Mika, I mean, it's all but confirmed that, I mean, he's not going anywhere. You're obviously not moving Miller, who you just got. Trocheck's not going anywhere. You're not moving Fox. So it's like you're going to have to work around the edges again. And we've seen how that really doesn't do much. Kreider will be gone. We'll see how much that helps. I mean, if this Kreider thing snowballs into a Trouba sequel, I'm going to lose my mind. But I don't see that happening. I think he's gone. But outside of Kreider and Keandre Miller, I just don't see anything else happening, to be honest.
Now, before I get to a comment the Bluegrass made right here, let me just also say this for the Carolina Hurricanes. So if they want to move on for Freddie Anderson, you got to find the North American version of Freddie Anderson, and they have him in Detroit. You might be able to get him. He's only making $2.5 million, and that's our beloved Cam Talbot. Because after all, he can make all the saves. Won't get out of the first round, but that'll be a different story.
Our honorary Cam Talbot mention.
Well, I had to go with the low hanging fruit right there. But do you think McDavid will announce his free agency decision like LeBron did? The answer is no.
He doesn't have that type of personality, and the NHL is just as boring. Like it would never be that way. I don't know. I really wonder because I saw the comment earlier about this was like way earlier if he's going to leave or not, depending if he wins. I keep going back and forth on that one because there's part of me that feels like there's a better chance he leaves if he wins because then he'll just go to chase the bag at that point. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's the opposite. I don't know which way it would go because you could make the argument either way and I could see it.
Yeah, I feel. I mean, we were talking about this earlier in the car on the way to the Met game, but I feel that for me, if he wins a cup either this year or next year, I think he ultimately stays just because he's done it there. And either way, Edmonton's going to throw a bag at him anyway, so he's going to get paid regardless. And I just think if he wins, he's going to want to stay there, finish his career there. I mean, he's going to get his number retired anyway. But I think that if he doesn't win there, I think he's going to be like, okay, I tried it here. It doesn't work. Let me at least test the market because I think he should test the market regardless just to see what's out there. But I think if he doesn't win a cup within the next 2 years in Edmonton, I think he will go out and then ultimately get paid. Hopefully he comes here and I get to watch McDavid every night because that would be a dream.
Be a blue teamer again.
Yeah, I mean that's everybody's dream. I mean, I would love to get McDavid. I don't know how likely it is, but that free agent class looks great as of right now.
Yeah, I got to make a video on that one.
Yeah, I mean, even if McDavid signs an Eichel, like there's still so much talent that could hit the market that year between Kempe, Kaprizov, Connor. I think at least like 2 of the guys out of that huge group is going to hit the market. And that's why I think the Rangers would be stupid to overspend on anyone this offseason unless they're getting like young, controllable assets like RFAs like McLeod or getting guys like Peterka, guys like that. To me, it's silly to overspend on any of these UFAs like a Brock Besser just because he's friends with JT Miller or overspending on a guy like Gavrikov or anyone like that. I think they got to wait for next offseason.
No, and let me go with what first Mr. Magic is saying. He's got 2 of them because he's got the other one that we're dreading, guys. And Rod Brindamore, do you think he's staying? Yes, he just signed a huge extension there. There is no way they're paying 2 coaches, and he's a god down there. But he also said, "Can the Rangers just get Bennett?" Oh dear
Please,
God,
No.
I've talked about this plenty of times. I talked about with Evan, with Phil, even with you, Mark. This is nothing about Sam Bennett because Sam Bennett is a very good player. He's a very effective player. He's shown that in his time here in Florida. But once again, and this is the difference between a team like the Rangers and a smart team like the Panthers and a team like the Lightning also, you go out there and you find the next Sam Bennett for cheap. Because Sam Bennett on the contract that he's making right now, which is about $4.5 million, $5 million, that's when you want him on that deal. When he's under the radar and you have him on that cheap deal and he's, putting up 50 to 55 points on that type of deal. But when you're going out there and you're throwing him $10 million, he's not worth $10 million. I'm sorry. And again, nothing against him as a player, but he's going to get overpaid, and the Rangers should stay clear of that. And any team that does sign him to that contract, I'm sorry, you're making a huge mistake.
Oh, absolutely a huge mistake.
David Wood's right. I mean, overpaying a 40-point player is not going to turn this team into a cup contender. Like, that's the thing, too, that I think needs to be kept in mind throughout the offseason, that this team is not one player away. Like, that's why I also don't want them to overspend on the UFA market. Like, if I felt they were a left shot defenseman away, I'd be like, yeah, just give Gavrikov whatever, because that helps you for next year. But this team is so far from one piece away that you can't break the bank on guys like Bennett or guys like Gavrikov. And this too, I mean, you can't have another Bobby Holik.
Yeah, that's what Toronto's going to do. That's why I said
it's Toronto.
I think Toronto's going to go full Holik on him, and that's. I mean, I think there are going to be other teams that are going to get involved. I could see it going up to 8, 8.5. I can't see 10. I think 10 is crazy. I don't think any team will give him that much. And I know that there's going to be a bidding war, but it's 10, I think, is just, that's stupid.
That's just crazy. But the thing is, all it takes is one dumb GM.
Yeah, that is true.
Plenty of times.
Yeah. All right. So, hey guys, so we're at 12:40 right now. Let's wrap this one up right here. We all think that Edmonton's going to finish off Dallas and get there. And I think we're ready for a very entertaining Stanley Cup Finals, because I think both these teams are just so driven. I'm at a loss for words on that one.
I just hope it's better than, each team winning 3 games in a row and then it coming down to a game 7. I'm hoping for a little more back and forth this year, which I think we'll get.
On a way, isn't that what happened with Pittsburgh and Detroit? I think the home team won every game, where they split the first 4.
Yeah, so I remember in 2008, just from watching highlights, Detroit took the first 2. They split in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh then won game 5, and they finished it off in Pittsburgh in game 6. And then in 2009, it was Detroit took the first 2, Pittsburgh took the first 2. Detroit won game 5, Pittsburgh won game 6, and then Pittsburgh took it in game 7 in 2009.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it was Ryan Malone in double overtime?
No, it was Peter Sikora.
It was Peter Sikora.
Yeah, in 2009, it was Peter Sikora.
Yeah. I remember watching that game.
That
game
guy
5 double overtime 08.
Scored a couple of them in that 03 run with Anaheim, and then he always found a way to score clutch goals every now and then. Not like he was doing it at the level of like Carter Verhaeghe or someone like that, but he definitely had a knack.
Yeah, it was exactly the way you said it, Matt. Home teams won every game until game 7. That was insane that year. But all right, guys. So we're gonna wrap this up right now, and just we're gonna enjoy the Stanley Cup Finals. And this was a good time. Thanks for coming on, Evan, Matt, and of course, always thank you, Mr. John Polkowski, the final buzzer. This is a great time. I'm keeping my voice low so I don't wake up anybody else in the house right now. And we will talk to you guys soon.